Paul Carter stood tall in his crisp blue uniform as he walked through the curved hallways of New Horizons Space Colony. People nodded with respect as he passed. As chief engineer, he was responsible for keeping the life support systems running, for all 500 colonists. Today was an important day, the annual colony gathering where everyone would celebrate another successful year of human expansion into space. Paul checked his watch and frowned. He was running late to pick up his wife, Olivia. She had been a brilliant scientist before the illness. Now she needed help getting around. His steps slowed as he approached their living quarters, his mind already drifting to thoughts of Heather and the news she had shared with him last night. Heather Graham was younger than Olivia by 10 years. She worked in the communications center, and her laugh made Paul feel alive again. For 6 months they had been meeting in secret. Last night, her eyes shining, she had told him she was pregnant with his child. Paul entered the apartment to find Olivia waiting in her mobility chair. Her brown hair was neatly brushed, and she wore a simple blue dress that matched her eyes. Those eyes still held the sharp intelligence that had once made her the colony's leading xenobiologist, studying alien life forms. But now her legs barely worked, and her hands sometimes shook too much to hold scientific tools. "You're late," Olivia said quietly. "The gathering starts in 20 minutes. Paul felt irritation rise in his chest. "I know what time it is. I've been working all day fixing the oxygen recyclers in Section 4, while you've been sitting here." He regretted the words as soon as they left his mouth. Olivia's face showed no emotion, but she turned her chair away from him. "I understand. Let's go." As they made their way to the colony's central dome, Paul pushed Olivia's chair while his mind raced. For 2 years, he had watched his brilliant wife slowly become dependent on him for basic needs. The colony doctors couldn't explain her condition, a mysterious illness that attacked her nervous system after she returned from a research mission to a nearby planet. The treatments took hours every week, and Paul had grown tired of driving her to medical appointments that never seemed to help. And now there was Heather and their baby, a new start, a chance at happiness again. The central dome was filled with people when they arrived. Children ran between groups of adults. Food tables lined the walls. The colony's leader, Governor Wilson, stood on a small stage preparing to give his annual speech. Paul helped Olivia find a spot near the front where she could see. Heather caught his eye from across the room. She looked beautiful in a red dress that showed the small bump of her pregnancy. When she smiled at him, Paul made his decision. "I need to speak to you," he whispered to Olivia. She looked up at him with those clear blue eyes. "Now? The governor is about to start. It can't wait." Paul leaned down. "I'm leaving you." Olivia's face went completely still. "What did you say?" "I'm leaving you. For Heather Graham. She's pregnant with my child." The governor tapped the microphone, calling for everyone's attention. But Paul wasn't finished. Something in him had broken. All the frustration, all the resentment of the past 2 years came flooding out. "I can't do this anymore," he said, his voice rising above a whisper. People nearby turned to look. "I can't keep taking care of someone who will never get better." Olivia gripped the arms of her mobility chair. "Paul, please, not here." But Paul was beyond stopping. He straightened up and addressed the crowd that had now fallen silent around them. "I have an announcement to make," he said loudly. The governor stopped mid-sentence, confused by the interruption. "I, Paul Carter, am leaving my wife Olivia. She has been unable to fulfill her duties as a scientist and as my partner since her illness. Heather Graham is carrying my child, and we plan to start a new family together." The silence in the dome was complete. 500 faces stared at Paul in shock. Olivia sat frozen in her chair, her eyes fixed on the floor. Governor Wilson cleared his throat. "Chief Engineer Carter, this is hardly the appropriate time or place for personal matters." "Everyone knows anyway," Paul continued, his voice echoing in the quiet dome. "Everyone sees me pushing her around the colony. Everyone watches me take her to treatments that never work. I've done my duty for 2 years. I'm finished." From across the room, Heather's face had gone pale. This wasn't what she had expected when Paul promised to end his marriage. Not a public shaming of a disabled woman. Admiral Laura Winters, visiting from Earth Command, stepped forward from the crowd. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and a commanding presence. "That's enough, Carter. Sit down or leave." Paul looked around at the sea of disapproving faces. Even his friends wouldn't meet his eyes. Only then did he realize what he had done. But pride kept him from apologizing. "Fine," he said. "I've said what I needed to say." He turned and walked out of the dome, leaving Olivia sitting alone in her chair. Admiral Winters approached Olivia and bent down to speak quietly in her ear. "Are you all right, Dr. Carter?" Olivia nodded once, her face still calm. "Yes, Admiral, this changes nothing about our project. The timeline remains the same." The Admiral squeezed her shoulder. "We can discuss the next phase tomorrow. For now, would you like me to have someone take you home?" "No," Olivia said. "The colony needs to see that I'm still strong enough to be here. The project depends on it." As the gathering slowly resumed, with people whispering and casting glances at Olivia, she sat straight in her chair. No one noticed her fingers tapping a complex pattern on the control pad of her chair, a coded message to a secure server. Personal complications. Project synthesis compromised. Request accelerated timeline. 3 days later, when the emergency alarm sounded throughout New Horizon, Paul would learn exactly what kind of woman he had betrayed. And by then, it would be too late. The day after the public humiliation, Olivia Carter sat alone in her private lab. This room was not on any official colony maps. Its entrance was hidden behind what looked like a storage closet in the science wing. Only 2 people had access: Olivia and Admiral Laura Winters. Olivia pressed her hand against a scanner. The door slid open. Once inside, she stood up from her mobility chair and walked slowly to the center of the room. Her legs were weak but functional. The chair was partly a cover, though the pain in her body was very real. The lab was filled with equipment that would make any scientist on New Horizon jealous. Screens covered the walls, showing data that no one else in the colony had ever seen. In the middle of the room stood a strange metal chamber connected to dozens of cables. Olivia sat down at her workstation and pulled up the secure communication link. Admiral Winters' face appeared on the screen. "Dr. Carter," the Admiral said, "I've reported yesterday's incident to Earth Command. They're concerned about security." Olivia nodded. "Paul knows nothing about Project Synthesis. He thinks I'm sick and getting useless treatments." "Are you sure? He's been acting strangely for months." "He's been unfaithful, not suspicious," Olivia said flatly. "The man lacks imagination. He sees what he expects to see. A broken wife who can't keep up with him anymore." The Admiral frowned. "Still, this complicates things. We're at a critical stage with the Valari. We can't afford any disruptions." Olivia gestured to the metal chamber. "The neural link is almost complete. 2 more sessions and I'll have full communication capability. The Valari have been patient." 2 years ago, a massive alien ship had entered the solar system. Earth's military prepared for war, but the ship made no aggressive moves. Instead, it sent a message in simplified mathematical code. The Valari wanted to talk, but they couldn't communicate in any way humans could easily understand. Their thoughts moved too quickly, in patterns too complex for normal human brains to process. Project Synthesis was born, an attempt to create a human AI interface that could communicate with the Valari. Olivia had volunteered to be the first test subject. "How are the side effects?" Admiral Winters asked. Olivia rubbed her legs. "The pain comes and goes. The neural implants are integrating with my nervous system. My brain is changing to handle the Valari thought patterns." She smiled thinly. "The paralysis was worst when Paul was around. Interesting psychological reaction, don't you think?" The Admiral didn't smile back. "The Valari ship has moved closer to New Horizon. They're worried about something." "I know. They've been sending fragments through the partial link we've established. I think they're being followed." Olivia pulled up images on a side screen, strange patterns that looked like flowing liquid metal. "These are Valari thought impressions. They keep showing me these images of something they call the Nexus Collective. Another alien species, but hostile. How hostile? They destroyed the Valeri homeworld. That's why they've been traveling between star systems. They're refugees. Admiral, not invaders. Admiral Winters leaned closer to her screen. And they came to us for help? What can we possibly offer against something that destroyed their civilization? Olivia smiled. Unpredictability. Human minds work differently. The Nexus Collective is highly logical, almost like a living computer network. They can predict what the Valeri will do, but humans, we're chaos to them. She turned to look at the metal chamber. The Valeri want to share their technology with us, but first they need someone who can understand it, who can translate between our species. That's what these neural implants are for. The Admiral's face showed concern. And the price you're paying is your body breaking down? Temporary, Olivia said. Once the integration is complete, the Valeri say my nervous system will heal. Better than heal, enhance, but the process is painful, and I needed a cover story for the colony. Being ill was simpler than explaining classified alien contact. And now? Now I don't need to pretend with Paul anymore. That simplifies things. Olivia's voice was calm, but her hands gripped the edge of the desk. I can complete the final integration sooner. The Valeri are getting nervous. If the Nexus Collective has tracked them here, an alert beeped on Olivia's console. She checked the readings and her eyes widened. Admiral, the Valeri ship is moving. They've activated some kind of energy shield. Why? What's happening? Olivia's fingers flew over the controls as she linked with the partial neural connection. Her eyes rolled back briefly as alien thoughts flowed into her mind. When she focused again, her face was pale. They're here. The Nexus Collective. 3 ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system. Admiral Winters stood up on the video screen. I'm contacting Earth Command immediately. How long do we have? Olivia pulled up the colony's long-range sensor data, accessing it through backdoor protocols. At their current speed, 3 days until they reach New Horizon. Can we evacuate? Olivia shook her head. Not everyone, and the collective will just follow. The Valeri came here because they thought we could help them fight back. With what? We're a research colony. Olivia looked at the metal chamber again. With me, Admiral. With what I'm becoming. She stood up, steadier on her feet than she had been in months. I need to complete the final integration now. We don't have time to wait. The doctor said the final phase could kill you if rushed. If the Nexus Collective reaches this colony, we all die anyway. Olivia started preparing the chamber. Have Governor Wilson prepare for emergency protocols, but don't tell the colony the truth yet. It will only cause panic. Admiral Winters looked grim. And Carter, your husband? Olivia paused, her hand on the chamber door. Let him enjoy his new life while he can. He'll find out soon enough what he walked away from. As the Admiral's image disappeared, Olivia stepped into the metal chamber. The door sealed behind her. Inside, neural connectors extended and linked with the implants hidden beneath her skin. Pain shot through her body as the final integration began. Outside her lab, life in the colony continued normally. Paul had moved in with Heather. People whispered about the scandal. No one knew that above their heads, alien ships were moving through space, bringing war to their doorstep. And no one knew that Olivia Carter, the woman publicly cast aside as broken and useless, was becoming humanity's only hope for survival. 3 days after Paul's public announcement, the emergency alarms blared throughout New Horizon Colony. The sound jerked Paul awake from where he slept next to Heather in her small apartment. The red warning lights flashed, casting strange shadows on the walls. What's happening? Heather asked, her voice tight with fear as she placed a hand over her belly. Paul was already pulling on his uniform. As chief engineer, he would be needed if there was a life support failure. Stay here, he told her. I'll find out. The hallways were filled with confused colonists. Some were still in sleep clothes, children crying in their arms. Colony security officers directed everyone toward the central dome. Paul pushed through the crowd, heading for the control center. Inside, Governor Wilson stood with his staff around the main display table. His face was grim. Paul was surprised to see Admiral Winters there too, talking urgently with the colony's defense officer. "What's the situation?" Paul asked, stepping up to the table. Governor Wilson looked at him coldly. Their relationship had been strained since Paul's behavior at the gathering. Long-range sensors detected 3 unknown ships entering our space. They're not responding to communications. Paul felt a chill. New Horizon was a research colony, not a military base. They had minimal defenses. Pirates, raiders, Admiral Winters, joined them. "Not human, Chief Engineer Carter. We're dealing with something else entirely." The main doors slid open, and everyone in the room turned to look. Paul's mouth fell open in shock. Olivia walked into the control center, not in her mobility chair, but walking on her own 2 feet. Her steps were sure and steady. She wore a strange suit that seemed to shimmer slightly under the lights. Small, blue lights glowed at her temples and along her neck. Behind her came 2 security officers rolling in a large piece of equipment that Paul had never seen before. "Dr. Carter," Governor Wilson said, relief in his voice. "Admiral Winters said you might be able to help us understand what's happening." Olivia nodded. Her eyes briefly met Paul's, but she showed no emotion at seeing her husband. She walked to the display table and placed her hand on its surface. The screens around them flickered and changed, showing new information that hadn't been there before. 3 ships belonging to what's called the Nexus Collective will reach New Horizon in approximately 8 hours, she said. Her voice sounded different, stronger, with an odd rhythm to it. "They are here hunting the Valari ship that entered our solar system 2 years ago." Paul stared at his wife in confusion. "How do you know this? How are you even standing?" "Admiral," Winters stepped forward. "It's time everyone understood. Dr. Olivia Carter hasn't been ill in the conventional sense. For the past 2 years, she has been the primary human connection to an alien species known as the Valari." Gasps and murmurs filled the room. The Admiral raised her hand for silence. "Project Synthesis was created when we realized normal human communication methods wouldn't work with the Valari. Their thought patterns are too complex, too alien. Dr. Carter volunteered to receive neural implants that would allow her to serve as a translator between our species. The side effects of these implants," Olivia continued, "included temporary nervous system damage. The paralysis and mobility issues were real, though less severe than I made them appear." Paul felt his face grow hot. "You've been lying to me. For 2 years?" "It was classified," Admiral Winters said sharply. "Dr. Carter was following orders." Olivia touched another part of the display. A holographic image appeared over the table, a sleek silver ship unlike anything humans had built. "This is the Valari vessel. They are refugees fleeing from the Nexus Collective, which destroyed their homeworld. They came to us because human minds work differently than theirs, less predictable, more creative. They believe we can help them fight back." She brought up another image. 3 black ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect. "These are the Nexus Collective vessels. Their technology far exceeds our own. New Horizon's defenses cannot stop them." Panic began to spread among the staff. Governor Wilson raised his voice. "What are our options? Evacuation?" Olivia shook her head. "There isn't time to evacuate everyone, and there's nowhere to hide that the collective won't find us eventually." She straightened her shoulders. "But there is a solution. The Valari have offered us an alliance and defensive technology." "What's the catch?" Paul asked, finding his voice. "There's always a catch." Olivia finally looked directly at him. "The catch, Paul, is that their technology requires a human mind with the neural modifications I've undergone to operate it. I'm currently the only human with these modifications." The room fell silent. Paul felt something cold settle in his stomach as he realized what she was saying. "The final integration I completed yesterday allows me to directly interface with Valari systems," Olivia continued, addressing the whole room now. "I can coordinate their defensive capabilities with our colony's resources." "You'll be risking your life," Governor Wilson said quietly. "I've been risking my life for 2 years," Olivia replied. "Every treatment, every neural adjustment brought pain and the risk of permanent damage. But I continued because the potential benefits outweighed the risks." She activated a new display showing a defensive plan, We have 8 hours to prepare. The colony's power grid needs to be reconfigured to support the Valari shield technology. Paul, as chief engineer, you'll need to oversee that. Paul blinked in surprise at being addressed so professionally. Yes, of course. Admiral Winters will coordinate with Earth Command. Governor Wilson, we need to prepare the colonists. Tell them enough to ensure cooperation but avoid causing panic. Everyone nodded, impressed by Olivia's calm authority. As they began to move to their tasks, Paul stepped closer to his wife. Olivia, I need to talk to you. We have nothing to discuss, she said coldly. Focus on your job, Chief Engineer. Lives depend on it. You could have told me, he said, his voice low and angry. 2 years of secrets. Something flashed in Olivia's eyes, the first real emotion she had shown. Would you have understood? Would you have supported me? You couldn't even support me when you thought I was sick. Before Paul could respond, Heather appeared at the door of the control center. Her face was pale with worry. When she saw Paul, standing close to Olivia, confusion crossed her features. Olivia noticed her too. Ms. Graham, she said with a nod, you should return to your quarters. We're preparing for a potential emergency situation. What's happening? Heather asked, looking between them. The colony is in danger, Paul said. I need to help prepare our defenses. Heather's eyes widened as she looked more closely at Olivia. You're walking, how? It's complicated, Olivia said. Olivia. Then she turned to the staff. We don't have time for personal matters. Everyone to your stations, we have work to do. As Olivia walked away, her movements fluid and graceful, Paul watched her with new eyes. The woman he had publicly shamed as broken and useless now held the colony's fate in her hands, and he had never felt more foolish in his life. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of activity. Paul worked with his engineering team to rewire the colony's power systems according to the strange diagrams Olivia had provided. The work was complex and unlike anything he had ever done before. These connections don't make sense, said Steve, one of Paul's best engineers. It's like we're creating some kind of energy pattern rather than a power grid. Paul wiped sweat from his forehead. Just follow the plans. Dr. Carter knows what she's doing. The formal way he now referred to his wife wasn't lost on his team. They exchanged glances but kept working. Meanwhile, in the central dome, Olivia and Admiral Winters prepared the large device they had brought from the secret lab. Colonists had been moved to secure areas deeper inside the colony structure. Only essential personnel remained in the operation zones. Heather found Paul as he finished the final power connections. Her eyes were red from crying. Is it true? She asked. The rumors saying alien ships are coming to attack us? Paul nodded, too tired to lie. Yes, but we have a defense plan. Everyone's saying Olivia is some kind of special agent who's been working with aliens all along. Heather's voice was small. That her disability was just a cover. It's complicated, Paul said, using the same words Olivia had used earlier. The neural implants she received caused real physical problems. But yes, she was on a classified mission. Heather looked at him with new understanding. And you had no idea. You thought she was just broken. The word made Paul flinch. I made a terrible mistake, Heather. We both did. She placed a hand on her stomach. What happens now? Before Paul could answer, his communicator beeped. Admiral Winters' voice came through. Chief Engineer Carter, report to the Central Dome immediately. When Paul arrived, he found Olivia standing inside a glowing circle on the floor. She wore what looked like a slim helmet connected to the larger machine they had brought. Admiral Winters stood at a control panel nearby. The Nexus collective ships will be in range. In 30 minutes, the Admiral said. Dr. Carter needs to explain the final phase of our defense plan. Olivia looked different now. The small lights on her temples pulsed with blue energy. Her eyes seemed to see beyond the room. The power grid reconfiguration you completed will channel energy to create a shield around New Horizon, she explained. But the shield needs direction, a mind to control it and adapt to the collective's attacks. Your mind, Paul said, understanding now. Olivia nodded. The Valari have created an interface that will connect my neural implants to their defense systems. I'll be able to coordinate our combined technologies against the collective. Governor Wilson frowned. What's the risk to you, Doctor? Olivia hesitated for just a moment. The interface will further alter my physiology. The changes from the neural implants will become permanent. Meaning what, exactly? Paul asked, stepping closer. Admiral Winters answered for her. Meaning, Doctor, Carter will never return to a fully human state. The connection to Valeri technology will permanently change her brain patterns and certain aspects of her biology. A heavy silence fell over the room. Paul stared at his wife, seeing her in a new light. You're sacrificing your humanity, he said softly. I'm evolving beyond it, Olivia corrected him. The Valeri aren't replacing what makes me human. They're adding to it. My mind will operate on multiple levels simultaneously. I'll understand, things no normal human can comprehend. But you won't be able to come back from this, Paul persisted. Olivia's eyes flashed. What exactly would I be coming back to, Paul? A husband who abandoned me when he thought I was broken? A life where I hide my potential to make others comfortable? Paul had no answer. The truth of her words stung more than any physical blow could have. Heather had followed Paul to the dome. She stood near the entrance, watching the exchange. As she heard Olivia's words, something changed in her expression. She looked at Paul with new eyes, not with love or even anger, but with disappointment. The colony's alert system suddenly blared. A technician at the monitoring station called out, "Nexus collective ships accelerating. 20 minutes to contact. We need to begin the interface process now," Admiral Winters said urgently. Olivia nodded and lay down on a platform that extended from the main machine. Technicians began attaching sensors to her forehead, neck, and arms. Paul stepped forward before they could complete the connections. Wait, let me speak to her just for a minute. Admiral Winters looked to Olivia, who gave a slight nod. The technicians stepped back. Paul knelt beside the platform. I was wrong, Olivia. I was selfish and blind. I didn't understand what you were going through. No, you didn't, she agreed, her voice calm. If you survive this, I'll make it up to you, he promised. We can start over. I'll leave Heather. I'll support you through whatever comes next. For the first time, Olivia laughed. The sound was not cruel, just genuinely amused. You still don't understand, do you? This isn't about you anymore, Paul. It never really was. She turned her head to look at him directly. I don't need you to support me. I don't need you at all. What I'm about to do will save humanity, including you, but I'm not doing it for you. Paul felt his face grow hot with shame. Olivia, please. You showed me who you really were when times got hard, she continued, her voice steady. I'm grateful for that clarity. It freed me to become something more. From the doorway, Heather watched their exchange. She placed her hand on her stomach again, but this time the gesture seemed like a decision rather than a question. Without a word, she turned and walked away. Admiral Winters stepped forward. It's time, Dr. Carter. Olivia nodded and looked at Paul one last time. You should go to the monitoring station. You'll be able to see everything from there. Paul stood, slowly. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know you are, she said simply. Goodbye, Paul. The technicians returned and completed the connections. The machine hummed to life, blue energy flowing along cables into Olivia's neural implants. As Paul walked to the monitoring station, he glanced toward the doorway where Heather had been standing. She was gone. He knew, in that moment, that he had lost them both. On the main screen, the 3 black ships of the Nexus Collective appeared, moving steadily closer to New Horizon. Humanity's first contact with a hostile alien force was minutes away, and humanity's only defender was the woman Paul had publicly discarded as worthless. The 3 black ships of the Nexus Collective moved into position around New Horizon Colony. On the monitoring screens, they looked like holes cut out of space itself. No lights, no visible windows or engines. Just perfect black shapes against the stars. From the command center, Paul watched with the other colony leaders as the Nexus ships began to emit a strange purple energy. Governor Wilson stood rigid, his hands clasped behind his back to hide their shaking. "They're scanning us," Admiral Winters explained, "looking for Valeri technology signatures." "Will they find them?" Paul asked. "Yes," the Admiral said simply. "That's part of the plan." In the central dome, Olivia lay connected to the alien interface. Her eyes were closed, but beneath her eyelids, rapid movement could be seen. The lights on her temples pulsed faster now, synchronized with the larger machine. Suddenly, Olivia's eyes snapped open. They glowed with the same blue light as her implants. "The collective has detected Valeri technology," she said. Her voice had changed, layered now with harmonics that made everyone in the room shiver. "They're preparing to fire on the colony." Through the neural link, Olivia could see the Nexus ships as the Valeri saw them. Not just physical objects, but complex patterns of energy and information. She could feel the collective's cold intelligence probing at New Horizons' defenses, searching for weaknesses. In the command center, alarms blared as the Nexus ships charged their weapons. "Shields up," Governor Wilson ordered. Paul activated the newly configured power grid. Energy flowed through the pathways they had created, forming a bubble of shimmering light around the colony. Just in time, the first Nexus ship fired. A beam of purple energy hit the shield. The entire colony shook. Lights flickered. "Shield holding at 70%, a technician called out. In the central dome, Olivia felt the attack like a blow to her own body, but through the pain, she reached out with her expanded mind. The Valeri ship, hiding on the far side of the planet, responded to her call. The Silver Valerie vessel rose from its hiding place, its own weapons charged, but it didn't attack immediately. Instead, it linked with Olivia's neural network, sharing information at incredible speed. Through the connection, Olivia understood the Nexus Collective in a way no human ever had before. They weren't truly alive as humans understood life. They were a network of artificial intelligence that had evolved beyond their creators. They consumed technology from other species, adding it to their own. The Valeri had been their latest targets. "I understand now," Olivia said, her voice echoing strangely through the dome. "The collective doesn't want to destroy us. They want to harvest the Valeri technology. They see humans as irrelevant." Admiral Winters leaned over her. "Can we use that against them?" Olivia smiled, a strange expression on her transformed face. "Yes, they're ignoring human systems, focusing only on Valeri energy signatures. They don't recognize the hybrid technology we've created." In the command center, Paul watched as a second Nexus ship fired. The colony shook again, more violently this time. "Shield at 40%, the technician reported. "We can't take many more hits like that." Paul's hands moved over the controls, trying to reroute. More power to the shields. But the systems were unlike anything he had worked with before. "I don't understand how to strengthen them." "You don't," came Olivia's voice over the communication system. "But I do." Through her neural link, Olivia reached into the colony's power grid. She could see the energy patterns as clearly as Paul could see wires and circuits. With a thought, she reshaped them, creating new configurations that strengthened the shields. The third Nexus ship fired. This time, the shield barely shimmered. "Shield, holding at 35%, the technician said in surprise. "How did you do that?" There was no answer from Olivia. Instead, the Valeri ship moved, positioning itself above the colony. It began to emit a golden energy beam that connected with the dome where Olivia lay. In the dome, Olivia's body lifted, slightly off the platform, suspended in the golden light. The machine surrounding her pulsed with energy. Her skin began to shimmer with the same metallic quality as the Valeri ship. Paul rushed from the command center to the dome. He arrived to find Admiral Winters and the technician standing back from the platform, faces filled with awe and fear. "What's happening to her?" Paul demanded. Admiral Winters spoke without taking her eyes off Olivia. "The final transformation. She's becoming the living bridge between human and Valeri technology." Olivia's eyes were wide open now, entirely blue with no whites or pupils visible. Her voice, when she spoke, seemed to come from everywhere at once. "The collective has a pattern. They attack in sequence, ship to ship. They never deviate from this pattern. It makes them predictable." Through her expanded consciousness, Olivia reached out to the Valari ship. She directed its weapons to target the second Nexus ship, the one that would fire next according to their pattern. The Valari weapon fired. A beam of golden energy struck the Nexus ship just as it began to charge its weapons. The black ship shuddered, purple energy crackling across its surface. "Now," Olivia commanded. The colony's shields changed. Instead of just protecting, they extended outward like a wave, carrying the energy from the Nexus ship's own weapons back toward them. The damaged Nexus ship couldn't adapt in time. The energy wave hit it, and for a moment, the black surface cracked, showing a network of pulsing purple light beneath. Then the ship exploded in a silent flash. The remaining two Nexus ships immediately changed position. They had never encountered this strategy before. Their predictive systems failed against the human-Valari hybrid defense. In the dome, Olivia's transformation continued. The metallic sheen spread across her skin. Her hair floated around her head as if she were underwater. When she moved her, hand traces of light followed the movement. "I can see their communications," she said. "They're calling for reinforcements. We need to end this now." The Valari ship moved again, positioning itself between the colony and the Nexus ships. Olivia directed the colony's power grid to channel energy to the Valari vessel, strengthening its weapons. The two remaining Nexus ships fired simultaneously, breaking their pattern in desperation. The combined blast hit the Valari ship hard, damaging its outer hull, but the Valari vessel held, its weapons charged with the colony's additional power. It fired at both Nexus ships at once. The golden energy beams struck true. The Nexus ships tried to evade, but Olivia had predicted their movements. Their black surfaces cracked, revealing the technology within, before they both exploded in brilliant flashes of purple and gold. In the dome, the golden light surrounding Olivia gradually faded. She slowly descended back to the platform. The machine powered down. The blue light in under her eyes dimmed, revealing normal human eyes again, but now flecked with gold. Admiral Winters approached cautiously. "Dr. Carter, can you hear me?" Olivia sat up smoothly. The metallic sheen remained on her skin, giving her an otherworldly appearance. "The immediate threat has been eliminated, but more will come eventually." Paul stepped forward. "Olivia, are you still you?" She looked at him, her expression calm and distant. "I am more than I was, but yes, the core of who I am remains." She stood from the platform. "The Valari are requesting permission to land. There is much work to be done to prepare for the next collective attack. And you'll lead this work," Admiral Winters said. It wasn't a question. Olivia nodded. "I am the bridge between our species now, the first of what I hope will be many." As she walked past Paul toward the exit, she paused. "You should know. The Valari have medical technology that might interest you. They can treat many conditions, including ensuring healthy fetal development." Paul stared at her. "Why would you tell me that, after what I did?" "Because despite everything, I still hope you become a better man, Paul." She looked toward the doorway. "For her sake, and for your child's." With those words, Olivia Carter, now something more than human, walked away to begin humanity's new chapter among the stars. Paul remained behind in the empty dome, surrounded by alien technology he barely understood. Outside, colonists were emerging from shelter, cheering their survival. The Valari ship descended toward New Horizons' landing area, a new ally in humanity's fight against the Nexus Collective. But Paul stood alone, finally understanding everything he had thrown away. His wife hadn't been broken after all. She had been becoming something extraordinary. And in his blindness and selfishness, he had lost the chance to be part of that journey. Some mistakes, he now knew, could never be undone. And some transformations changed everything forever.